Hello, everyone. I welcome you to another life story coming to you from Lifestories Worldwide. My name is Alan Jones. We bring you stories from across the world, and the stories go out across the world too. We bring you stories of people who've gone through all different struggles in their lives, abuse, rejection, and many other struggles that they've gone through. You can, if you want to contact us, you can contact us on our website, lifestoriesworldwide.com. There you'll find all the contact information. We are live on StreamYard, Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. And you can listen to these broadcasts over and over again. If you go to our YouTube channel, Life Stories at Lunch, we encourage you to do that and to click the subscription button, the like button, and the bell so we can inform you when we are live. Our story today comes from Yorkshire. Our guest today is Debbie Coulam. Debbie is living there in Rotherham. When she was only 13 years old, she got addicted to drugs and has been through much abuse in her life. She's had a life like a roller coaster. She was lost, and then something happened that changed her life. I would just mention that Debbie is dog sitting for her brother today. She's been very kind, looking after brother's home, but also looking after the brother's dog. So we apologize if there's some sound effects today, but I'm sure you can listen to Debbie's story and not be put off by the dog, Samson. So I'm going to hand over to Debbie now to share her story. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Just thank you for being here today and tuning in to listen to my story. Well, as Alan was saying, I was 13 when I started drugs, but there's things that led up to that. So I just want to take you back to my childhood and to take you through how my life was and how it is now. Growing up, I had a pretty good childhood. From like being young up until being 10-year-old. My mum and my dad, and I've got 9 brothers altogether. My mum and my dad was married previously to their marriage, so I had 7 older brothers, and then my mum and dad got together and had me and my 2 younger brothers. So I'm an only girl, which I had to shout a lot to get my voice heard. Everything was good. I running around and happy and loving family. And then everything changed when I turned 10 years old, just after my 10th birthday in January 1987, sorry, everything changed. My life got absolutely turned upside down. My dad, he died. We'd had an amazing Christmas, and then the end of January, he died, which really, it devastated me. It really took everything out of me. It took everything away from me, all the happiness, all the joy that was in my life. It all just gone. I was very angry. I was angry at the world. I was angry at everyone because I couldn't understand why my dad had gone, and I couldn't understand why everybody else still had their dad, but my dad had to be took away. It took me into a spiral of just isolating myself from everybody. I didn't want to speak to anybody. I didn't want to be around anybody. My mum she had to go back out to work, so she wasn't around as much. And also my mum didn't really grieve in front of us. She did grieve, but she didn't grieve in front of us. So then that made me a little bit angry as well, because I thought my mum had forgot about my dad, and my dad was so special to me. I felt a lot of hurt and a lot of rejection. And I didn't know how to deal with these feelings. I didn't know how to cope. I didn't know how to deal with my grief. And I just felt so lonely. Even though I was in an house with my mum and my 2 younger brothers, it really hit me so hard. I didn't want to be at school. I didn't want to be anywhere. I just wanted to sit in my bedroom and cry because I so missed my dad. And then after a couple of years, my mum remarried. She remarried, and that sort of fetched a load of different feelings on. I was bitter. I was resentful. I was resentful to this marriage. I was angry. I was angry at my mum, thinking, how could she remarry somebody else? Why didn't she love my dad anymore? And I didn't really get on with my stepdad. It gave us a good life. We had a good life, but I didn't really get on with him. I really resented him for being in our family. And that I was about 12, 13 when they got married, which then I started rebelling. I started rebelling against my mum. I started rebelling at school. I started rebelling at everything. I started doing what I wanted to do and not listening to what anybody else wanted to. And I started meeting boys, entering into relationships that with boys that were older than me, only by a few years, but and these boys were doing drugs. And like, I got into my first relationship, I think I was about 13 and a half years old, and that was a sexual relationship. So I started my being sexual at 13 and a half year old. In that relationship, I thought, as we all do, that this is love. It's he loves me. And I love him, and thought we was going to be together forever, as you do when you're that age. I understand now that it was such a young age to get into a relationship, but I was searching. I was always searching to be accepted. I was always searching to be needed. I was looking for love. I was looking to be loved.
Lifestories Worldwide is broadcast live every Monday night at 8 p.m. UK time. We broadcast on YouTube, Facebook and StreamYard. Why not join us every Monday night at 8 p.m. UK time for Lifestories Worldwide. Speak to us here at Lifestories Worldwide. You can, simply by dialing +44 7943 550287. Call us now.
And that was the main thing. I just wanted to be loved, because I felt that I'd left, even though I hadn't, because I was loved by my family and we had a lot of love and nourishing in our family, but it was the love that I'd lost from my dad that I was looking for. That I started, this boy that I'd got into a relationship with, he smoked weed, and he got into a lot of trouble. He got into trouble with the police, and this is when I first started taking drugs. I started with cannabis, and eventually it progressed, and it went from cannabis, it went from smoking cannabis daily to then, like, I was doing things like sniffing gas and glue, and it was anything to take away all this anger, take away all this hurt and pain that I had, and all this grief that I had from my dad dying. And that was my start of my journey from drugs. Little did I know then that this journey would be the majority of my life, and it was only the beginning. So this relationship broken down pretty much after 15. He was cheating on me. So then I got a lot of rejection. I felt a lot of rejection from there. It was like, why doesn't he want me? Why doesn't he like me? So I got to start, and that was start of a journey of a rejection. And I'll skip forward to when I was 16. Between these years of like 13 to 15, I'd been taking the drugs, and it always progressed. It went from one to another, and then I would be started taking amphetamines, and I'd be started taking acid, And though I remember one night, I was 16 in the October, and this was January. It was actually my mum's birthday, so I'd been at a friend's house, and I'd had some acid, and I'd phoned my mum up to see about stopping out, but because it was a school night, I had to come home, but I didn't want to, because I was off my head on drugs, and I didn't want my mum to see me like that. So I told my mum I wasn't coming home. I was 16-year-old and I wasn't coming home. That was it. I was leaving home. So I did. I left home at 16-year-old. My mum did everything in her power. She phoned the police. She got everything to try and get me back home. But because I was 16, I didn't have to. So my mum had to fetch my clothes to me and drop my clothes off, and she was heartbroken. And I didn't realise how much I broke my mum's heart that day, but I do now. And the girl's house that I was staying at, she was taking drugs. She'd got a young daughter of her own, and because she was taking drugs, she wasn't really looking after her daughter. So I stepped in and started looking after her daughter. But where I'm going with this story is that she had a cousin called Wayne, and he was 21 years old. I was 16 at the time. But he took a liking to me, and I took a liking to him. And I ended up in a relationship with him. And this relationship, at first, it was good. It was amazing. But very quickly, it got very violent. Within 3 months, he started beating me very, very badly. I mean, I got punched in the face. I got punched within inches of my life on a daily basis within this relationship. And he was a lot older than me. He was very abusive with his words. He knew how to tear me down and keep me in that place. I loved him, and I chose to stay with him. I chose to forgive him each and every time that he did this, because he'd hit me, and then within, sorry about the dogs, after he'd hit me, he'd say he was sorry, and I believed him. I believed what he would say, that he would and then I'm sorry about this. Sorry about the dogs, they're distracting me. Well, what I was saying is, I believed everything he said. I truly believed that he wouldn't do it again until the next time. And then again, I'd forgive him until the next time. But each and every time, it got worse. And this relationship, he took me away from my family. He took me down to Northampton near Leicestershire. And I didn't know anybody down there. I was staying with his friends. He was coming back to Rotherham on a weekly basis, but I wasn't allowed to come just in case I left him. So I was very alone down there, and he would beat me within inches of my life. I was strangled. I was raped. I was sexually abused. I was emotionally abused. I was tormented. I was made to feel less than the dog poo on somebody's shoe. He really took away my identity. He really made me feel like I was nothing. I've had bottles of wine smashed over my head. I was chucked down the stairs. But it always got to that. He'd do this, and then at that pivotal moment, it would stop. And that's how it was all the way through. I'd only been with him then, like, all this has happened, but I'd only been with him for about 7 months. And then he got locked up. He pinched cars and he broke into houses. So I became part of that lifestyle. That was who I was. I wasn't going out and doing these things, but I was accomplished to it because I was condoning it. I was letting it happen. And he got locked up.
It's very easy to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Life Stories at Lunch, to receive notifications of when we are live. Simply click the bell. If you would like to contact us here at Life Stories Worldwide, you can. Simply by emailing lifestoriesworldwide@gmail.com or visit our website at lifestoriesworldwide.com.
And I was down Northampton. He got locked up and I was stuck there. So all the people that I was around at that time, they got together and they got me a coach ticket to get home. When I got home, my mum was just there and she just flung her arms around me and she just loved me and I felt safe. I felt safe again. And she didn't judge me. She just loved me. She just told me how much she loved me and how much she'd missed me and that she was glad I was home. Well, after I'd been home a few weeks, I found out I was pregnant. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was 3.5 months pregnant. And I had a beautiful daughter. Who's now 29 years old, which is a shock. My daughter was born. I did let him know that I was pregnant, and he said straight away that it wasn't his. He was in jail. It can't be his. So then I felt rejected all over again. So my life then was, I was a mum. I was 17-year-old and I was a mum. I had this little child that I had to be responsible for, and I didn't know what I was doing. I lived at my mum's house, so I had my mum's help, and I'm so thankful for that help. I'm so thankful for my mum being there for me. But I was scared. I was so scared. I'd look down at this baby and I'd think, I can't look after myself. How do I look after a baby? But all this time, I was still feeling lonely. I was still feeling low. I still was battling with my grief, crying all the time because I just felt I couldn't go on. I didn't understand why my daughter's dad didn't love me, why he treated me like that, what it was about me, why. Because I thought it was my fault. I was led to believe it was my fault. Why he beat me was my fault. Why he did these things to me was my fault, because that's the way he did. So then I was always like, I'm sorry for, and sometimes it was even sorry for looking at him wrong, sorry for getting out of bed wrong. There were the slightest things that would trigger these things off. So he was locked up and my daughter was born. But I wanted to go out and party. I'd see all my friends going out because I'd got all my friends back, and I'd see them going out, and I wanted to go out. My daughter I was only 18. So I did. I'd go out partying. My mum would watch my daughter while I went out. But I took advantage of that. I didn't know when to stop. I'd go out and I'd be taking drugs, I'd be drinking, and I'd be sleeping with men because I was trying to seek after that acceptance, that attention, that love. I was always looking to be loved. I was always looking to be wanted, because I'd been told for so long, I'd been told that I wouldn't be loved. Nobody would want me, nobody would like me. So I looked for that in a lot of places. And so my daughter she spent a lot of time with my mum. I'd go out on a Friday night and I wouldn't come back in while Sunday morning. And I was only 18-year-old. I was sleeping around a lot. I was taking drugs. I had no confidence. I didn't know who I was. I tried to be everything what anybody else wanted me to be. So then that was my life for a couple of years. And then my daughter's dad got out of prison. And as soon as he got out of prison, he come looking for me. And that fear started all over again. And I ended up back with him. I know I made this choice to get back with him. I couldn't get away from him. He would find me wherever I was. He would follow me, and he would start sweet talking me. He would tell me that he'd never hit me again, and that he loved me, and that it'd be different this time. So I ended up back in a relationship with him. But while he was in prison, he'd started taking heroin. So then I got introduced to heroin. It was my choice. It was my choice to take it. And I do realise this. But I didn't realise what I was getting into when I first started taking heroin. And I was 19 years old when I started taking heroin. Sorry about this, just one moment. I was 19 years old when I started taking heroin. My daughter was about 18 months old. And this became my life. I remember I didn't know what I was getting into when I first started. I just knew this drug, it made me feel numb. All that pain, all that hurt, all that grief, all that rejection, it sort of just disappeared. So that's why I started taking it, because I didn't want to feel that pain. I didn't want to feel them hurts. I didn't want to feel that rejection. I didn't want to feel that anger. I didn't know how to deal with all these emotions that were going on. And this drug, it just took it all away. Little did I know that it would destroy everything. It would destroy my mum. It would destroy my family. It would destroy all my life.
If you would like to contact us here at Lifestories Worldwide, you can. Simply by emailing lifestoriesworldwide@gmail.com or visit our website at lifestoriesworldwide.com.